the balloons, the rainbow, the rifle line, the horn line, all these things were incredible. So we want the kids to have this experience, this performance experience, this bonding friendships, this instructional excellence that may or may not result in high placements, but will result in love, by the audiences, and create bonds that will last forever for those kids.
Think about, when you were young and when you got in that first corps, wherever it may have been, it doesn't matter, and the experiences you had. It doesn't matter, honestly, where you placed. I've got friends that are in the number 1 and in the number 30. It doesn't matter. Everybody goes through the same journey. I look at it, the experience, the journey is what it's all about.
This is about the kids and us giving them this opportunity for an experience that all 4 of us have shared with different groups maybe, but have shared. There's something about getting on a bus full of smelly people, so excited about the performance you just had, that will change a person. It just will. And that's what we're about, is giving these students this new lease on their musical life.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Hinton, the Beast of the Marching Arts, and I am so excited about this podcast conversation. We are talking Skywriters, everybody. And who doesn't want to talk about Skywriters? I have such fond memories of the Skywriters from back in my early years in drum corps, and I think there's a chance where they may be showing up on a field again one day. So we're going to find out about that on the line tonight. Russ Chandler's here. How are you, Russ?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am so good. Thank you for being here. Jay Smith's with us. Jay, how are you?
I am well. Good to be here.
Absolutely. And Dale Antoine is with us. Dale, how are you?
Very good. Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely. And if you're lucky enough to be watching this on video, you will see that Russ is rocking his Skywriters t-shirt, which I love. Very nice. And actually, there's a drum head behind you. Is that also you want to tell us what that is?
It's not a Sky. I do have a Skywriters one. It's just not in this room. And this one's just from the past season at DCI, because I volunteer with Dale on DCI event staff. So we know a lot of the folks, and a lot of the folks are really generous about doing this kind of thing. But I do, I marched in '83. This is a few years ago, but I do have a drum head similar to this one, and it's got everybody, at least from the drum line, on it. It's hard to get everybody from the corps, but really
Cool.
take that. I'm really proud of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So go ahead and introduce yourself further, Russ. You started mentioning about your drum corps, but tell us about who you are and your connection to Skywriters.
Well, my name is Russ Chandler. I live in Columbia, Missouri. That's where I was living at the time when I was in the Skywriters. My parents are from here, and I pretty much grew up here. I didn't go to school here. Went to Missouri Western St. Joseph, but during my college years, I did go to Skywriters for that 1 year. Marched Base 2 on the 1983 season. That was the only year DCI went to Miami, Florida. So that was quite memorable for people who remember that year. And there's quite a few of them, from what I understand. Talk about those fond memories of Miami, which was only like 1 year.
Absolutely.
But
I was there.
My affiliation, like I said, going forward from just my Skywriters, ever since then, I've worked with numerous drum lines. I'm a percussionist. Obviously, I worked with a lot of drum lines over the years, high school. I did a little teching with the Skywriters right after I left them in '83. I came back in '84 for a little while. But since then, I've been involved with a lot of different programs, and I've been involved, like I said, volunteering with DCI, volunteer with WGI, with BOA. I still do all those things. It's hard to get away from it. And when the Skywriter project came up, how could I not jump on board? So really glad to be here. But that's the extent of my stuff.
That's awesome. I got to tell you, volunteers are so important. My hat's off to you and everybody else that gives of their time into this activity that we all love. So thank you for doing that. I started with you, Russ, because you were the one that sort of reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to talk to you. So I appreciate. Am I right about that?
Yeah. Well, you had that other webcast I did with you when we were just talking kind of nostalgic about the Skywriters. You're
absolutely
talking about older groups maybe that weren't around anymore. So
yeah,
really happy that you were willing to do this as well.
Oh gosh, of course. I mean, who didn't want to talk about drum corps? Jay Smith, tell us about who you are and what your connection is here.
Yeah, Dr. Jay Smith. I'm the president of the Yellowstone Center for Faith, Adventure, and the Arts in Bozeman, Montana. I marched in Hutch in the Skyriders in 1981 and in 1983 with Russ. And gosh, I first saw them in 1970, I think it was 8, in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. One of the, as a matter of fact, it was the first drum corps show in Oklahoma. And there was a lot of great corps there. Madison was there. Kilties were there, I believe. But Skyriders stole the show. It was just full of energy and excitement. And, you know, I started writing letters immediately to George Tuthill and the gang, but it was not until 1981, my junior year of high school, that I could actually go and march. And it changed my life. Everything that I do and have accomplished in my life has been driven by how the Skyriders shaped me as a person, as an educator, as a musician, all of that. So it's a great privilege to be an alum of the Skyriders.
Very cool. I love it. I will never forget that the Skyriders and that rainbow appearing, and like, you know, that's memorable stuff. Everybody, like, that sticks with you. Dale Antoine is with us. Dale, tell us about yourself and your connection to Skyriders.
Well, I'm the old man. So I started in 1970 with the Jets, which was the feeder corps of Skyriders back when you actually had feeder corps and stuff. I marched from in 1 year in the Jets, then in Skyriders from 71 through 78. I was on staff, visual staff for a couple of years, and then I left the activity, came back in the fall of 85 and was in 86, 87, 88 was the corps director. The 3 years we made finals, and then moved to just outside of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And I've been doing DCI work. I'm the event staff manager and a bunch of other stuff I do with DCI for the last 20 some years. But then presently, I'm the vice president of the board. Jay is the president of the board. I'm vice president of the board. Jay, just give a little background. Jay reached out to Steve Vickers with an idea, and then Steve got a hold of me, and then I got a hold of Jay, and then it just has kind of mushroomed from there. And so we are excited to launch this ship, but we realize it's going to be a slow-moving ship for a while until we get all our ducks in a row, and we've done a lot of work.
Okay, well, I cannot wait to dig into all of that. But before we do, I have to ask one question. Every drum corps calls itself by something that everybody else doesn't call it by. And Jay, you sort of in passing said, I marched at Hutch. So is that what corps members call Skyriders?
Yeah, I've never called it anything else other than Hutch. I've heard different things from people outside of the corps, but it's, you know, you're with an alum when they say, yeah, I marched in Hutch too, or something like that. Yeah, Hutch.
Amazing. And with Jay, was it the Hutch all the way back when you were marching too?
Yeah, it's always been Hutch.
Oh yeah.
And we do want to make sure that when it did move to Texas, I'm sure they called it something other than Hutch, but the old time people have always called it Hutch. In fact, it drives my wife nuts. She to hear the word Hutch. So it's she's not a Kansan person. So, but yeah, that's what we've always called it. Ryders. It's either Ryders. You don't usually use Sky in front of it. It's just Ryders or Hutch.
Yep.
Okay. Right. So but see, I don't want to be like presumptive tonight and be like, okay, so let's talk about Hutch, because I'm not like an insider. So if I say Skyriders, don't roll your eyes at me. But everybody listening, if you're a hardcore drum corps fan, you want to know these kind of things. I love reading. Of course, I'm a Phantom Regiment guy, but everybody calls it the regiment, right? And so a lot of times when people suddenly like get on the staff with the regiment, they find themselves saying, oh, Phantom this, and they have to stop and correct themselves. So I think this is really interesting, sort of what everybody calls itself. Okay, that was such a detour. I'm really sorry. Jay, back to you. You've got this giant project going. Fill us in. What's going on?
Well, you know, gosh, for the last 10 years, I've been here in Bozeman with the Institute, the Center for Faith, Adventure, and the Arts. And one of the things that I do is I recruit in the Central States area for students, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas, because I know those places. And for a number of years, I actually stayed in Hutchinson when I was speaking at colleges in the area. And one of the things that just struck my heart was I remembered how many hours of practice time I spent in the bingo hall or on the field behind Gowan Stadium, and the relationships that I made, and the Sunday night drive-in movies we would go to way after rehearsal was over, and just how much this place meant to me, and conversely how much the people meant to me. And so on a whim right before COVID, because as president of a graduate school, I have no problems calling other presidents. So I just made a random call to the president of the community college in Hutchinson, just to see if there was a possibility they'd be interested in partnering with a group of people to resurrect this group that had meant so much to Hutchinson from really early 1950s up until the late 90s when Dale was there. And he completely entertained that. He said, yes, let's talk about this. Let's get me a pro forma. And quite frankly, I wasn't sure if I'd get past that first meeting, we'd have a cup of coffee and we'd be done. But what I found out over the ensuing period of time as we formed the board and got things together is how many heartstrings Hutch had pulled over the years. Whether it was the Rainbow, or it was the Wizard of Oz show, or the West Side Story show, or the Sound of Music show, or some of those crazy jazz things that, Russ and I did with the rest of the gang back in the early 80s and late 70s. And the community response to, oh my gosh, I remember the Skywriters. Oh, you're thinking about coming back and doing this, was in and of itself really almost enough reward. Just the fact that the community was so excited about that. The alumni base was excited. And so I had met Steve Vickers, back in the 90s. I taught at the Naval Academy as the drum corps director and judged for DCA, and had a chance to meet Steve for the first time, and we immediately bonded over the Skywriters. I was judging DCA finals, and he was there to cover it for Drum Corps World. And it was as if we had this huge, as with Regiment, this extended family that just goes around the world literally for us. And so as this whole thing has evolved for us, and it's been incredible. The fact that Russ is on with us, we have a number of alums that have done many things that are involved with us, and to look at the pedigree of the people in the activity that Hutch birthed, if you will. Carl Lowe, a lot of the Skyrider rifle line has gone on. Tommy Keenum, Alan Muggenborg, Wes Cartwright. All these guys are designers and guard instructors, and pushed the activity a whole new level up. Lee Carlson was the guard instructor when Russ and I marched, and it turned into something just incredibly special, and people want that special back again. And so it's from that point on, we formed the board. Dale was on early with us. Alum Craig Coldren was on early with us. He marched back in the 70s, aged out in 1980. Chris Knighton, the University of Arkansas director of bands, who did horns for the Skywriters in '86, marched with myself and Russ in the early '80s, is just gung-ho. Darren Davis of Broken Arrow High School is an alum of the Skywriters. He's,
these are big time names that you're dropping out here.
And they're friends. And we look back on this, and all of us bond over this, and the fact that the core itself back in those early days was willing to maybe take some chances. The rifle line of the Skyriders in between 1980 and 1984 was spectacular, and it spawned some of the craziest visuals, ever. I think, really, triple rifle, leapfrog, death row, all of these kind of things, and they're friends, and so we enjoy our time together. And one of the things we want for kids to know nowadays isn't simply the competitiveness of DCI. We've got to make finals. We've got to make top 6, yada, yada, yada. Because for Skyriders, the fact that Dale was able to get the Corps to 9th place was like incredible. We were so used to being bottom dwellers, and we had grown used to that and liked that because the audience still loved us, right? The balloons, the rainbow, the rifle line, the horn line, all these things were incredible. So we want the kids to have this experience, this performance experience, this bonding friendships, this instructional excellence that may or may not result in high placements, but will result in love, by the audiences, and create bonds that will last forever for those kids.
It's fantastic. So Dale, what is the aspiration here? Where are we starting? Where are you guys starting with this process?
So let's go back to last summer. Well, let's go back in October of 22. A group of us met, J.I., Steve, and Craig, and we said, okay, how are we going to do this? So by May, June of 23, we had formed the board of directors. We had got the 501c3, all the infrastructure work was done. Your bylaws, all that stuff was done. Put a board together, put an advisory board together, and then I made contact with Pat Seidling out of Blue Devils, who's a friend, and said, hey, I looked at their schedule and I said, hey, you're in Colorado, you got to go to Broken Arrow. Where are you going in between? Well, the year before they had stayed in Great Bend, that was not available. I said, well, why don't you come to Hutch? And so we had the idea that you come to Hutch, we'll throw a clinic for all the area band students. You can have a stadium for the day to use, and if you do a performance that night, don't need to do it in uniform, just do a performance. And that's kind of started. We didn't know what to expect. We worked with the junior college, and we ended up between, I think, 175, 200 kids at this clinic for the afternoon. We probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of 750, 800 people came and watched 2 hours of rehearsal for Blue Devils. And then we kind of said, well, you know what? This might be going a little faster than we thought this was going to go, because we didn't know what to expect. We walked in that weekend. I can tell you, Jay and I and Russ, we walked in that weekend. We didn't know for exactly if there were going to be 50 kids there or what. And we ended up with almost 200. And so we said we need to maybe move our timeline up on how we're going to do this. So we have now gone to the fact that we're going to hold clinics. We've got 10 clinics set up between end of January and through the first part of June. Both, we're getting percussion, brass winds, and color guard. We've got our clinicians all lined up, both alumni and not alumni. For example, you're a big Phantom guy, J.D. Shaw, who writes their book as a Skyrider. He's coming in to do a clinic, not only with the kids, but directors. And so we have these set up over the next, 4 or 5 months with the hope of also doing a performance. So I went to DCI and I said, hey, we'd like to get a show back in DCI in Hutch. And we saw on July 16th, the same day as Broken Arrow in Abilene, there's a show in Hutch. So we got Madison Troopers, Blue Stars Battalion, I think Colt Cadets are all coming. And so the hope is to do maybe a little performance at that show, working off, the culmination of what we've done over the spring and winter. And that's the hope. And then we'll reevaluate, how all this went and decide, okay, what's the next step? And of course, a lot of this is all contingent on fundraising, which we've started. We've had some decent results. Could always use more. Jay and I found a community foundation in Hutch. Jay wrote a grant. They gave us $10,000 to help offset the cost of these clinics. So, as Jay said, there's a lot of goodwill within the community saying, you know what, we really like to see how this could work. And when you get a foundation who, it's been 40 years. Some of these people, looked at us like, some people knew who we were. They remembered us. Some were probably going, what the hell is this? But they gave us a grant, which was extremely generous. So we're gonna, end of January, I think it's January 27th, it's our first percussion clinic in Hutch. We've got schools lined up and everything, and so that's how we're going to progress. We're going to see how this works over the spring and winter, and by the end of next summer, we'll have a game plan on where it's going next.
Well, I got to tell you guys,
the hope is taking this to sound sport, maybe a drum line, winter guard, whatever direction it takes. We're not there yet to know exactly what direction it's going to take, and how fast it's going to take, but that's the movement.
Yeah, and DCI has been wonderful about creating this sort of model now where there's a way to sort of start and move and grow. And I think that's the whole sound sport thing, and then everything that goes with that on the other activities. I think that's really smart. I got to tell you guys, you know how to get a crowd. Okay, let's see. We need a bunch of people to show up. Oh yeah, let's call in the Blue Devils. like that's pretty amazing. Okay.
Connections help.
Gosh, absolutely. Connections are everything, everybody. It's all about relationships. These guys are living proof, never burn a bridge, right? Like keep goodwill going with everybody That's so amazing. So I have a question. These clinics, are they for anybody? Are they only for people that think they want to march with the Corps this summer or whatever you're going to do? Like, how are they being, who all can participate?
They are for everybody. So, and by that I mean school age students from roughly 14 to college age. So the drum corps age range, and of course since 1989 or 1990, there have been no drum corps in Kansas, none. And the marching activity in the state has floundered a bit, unlike Texas and Oklahoma and some of the other, Missouri, et cetera, that have flourished. Kansas has struggled a bit. And so, our deal is, Skyriders Performing Arts Foundation wants to be a benefit to Reno County and other Kansas County band programs. We want to help you be better than you can imagine. We want to give our directors information that they want and are looking for. So, for example, Darren Davis is going to talk about show programming and rehearsal strategies. JD Shaw about making your ensembles, just sound better, approaches to that sound. Chris Knighton is going to do something similar to that. We've got Taha Ahmed, who's coming up from Monarch Percussion in Houston, who's the Mandarin's caption head, and one of his folks, Khalees Conger, and they're going to talk about marching percussion, in your marching band, how to integrate all of this better than what we do. And so it's really about us providing, through our contacts, through our abilities, more opportunities for students and directors in this area, so they'll benefit from this. The outside benefit for us, obviously, is now we're exposing ourselves to the greater band and Kansas community. We have had real great cheerleaders, obviously with the Blue Devils, but with other corps as well, wanting to see us come back. And with these Kansas kids, it's in a way, it's a reintroduction to them, to their own local corps, and the opportunities that we bring to them, outside of the school year in terms of the summer performance programs, that kind of stuff. So the real face of the SRPAF clinics is about, number one is we want to help you. We want to be an asset for you. And the Skyriders coming back to Hutchinson is not a drag on the resources. It's actually an empowerment of the resources. That's how we see it anyway.
Well, I love it. That's very exciting. So before Russ, you're up next. I'm coming to you next. But before we go there, if somebody's like, I want to check out this clinic, I might want to send my kids. Like, where do they go?
To go to the website, skyriderspaf.org. It will have a clinic schedule. It'll have a registration link, and they can register and do it. And like I said, anybody, we've already got interest from northern Oklahoma. But one of the things we realized, and one of the things we really emphasized when we first started this, is we got to start local. When I got done being director of Skywriters, there was very few kids from Hutch or from Kansas, and that kind of just how it's. When I was March in the 70s, everybody was from Hutch or right outside Hutch, and then George Tuthill came, and the Corps started to grow. But when the Corps grows and gets better, of course, you're going to attract people from outside the area, and we had kids from all over the country by the time we were there. But then you kind of lose that connection with the local base, and we realized to get this restarted, we got to concentrate on the local base, and get that movement started, so we can get financial backing from not only the business community, because Hutch isn't exactly a huge. We're talking 40,000 people. It's known for a couple of different things, but music education might not be one of them. As far as where it's gone over the years. So hopefully that's what we're trying to do, is just bring back a local base and see where it goes from there. And then always maintain that local base. We got to maintain that local base.
Yes, it's very smart. So everybody remember, it's Skywriters PAF, and that's RYDERS. Anybody, I imagine if you spelled it the other way, it might show up anyway. But
a lot of people like to put an I in there. There's no I.
It's RY, everybody. Okay, so us old school guys know that for sure, I guess. Or you can look at Russ's shirt. So Russ, what did you think the first time somebody calls you or you hear about this? What was your reaction?
Well, Russ is figuring it out. Let me say some things about Russ. We got this going early on, and we have a really fantastic alumni group on Facebook, and Russ has been a part of that for a long time. And I think one of the things when this first really came out, I hadn't even really said anything. We hadn't gone public with it, but Russ could smell it. He could actually sniff out what we were doing, and he contacted me directly, and he said, "Jay, I want to be involved. What can I do?" This is before we went public, and it became really obviously really quick that, of course, I know Oklahoma pretty well. I actually went to Broken Arrow High School, but Missouri has always been a really strong recruiting place for the Skywriters. And, Russ's connections with the local area high schools, with guard kids, with percussion kids, with his ability to, go out and find equipment for us has been incredible. I'm still, let's face it, I'm still a working hack. Russ is too, but how he makes extra time to go and look at a drum set section for us, and do the things he does, also while working for Dale and DCI and Bands of America as well, has been incredible. I think that in many ways, Russ has driven us as a group to be better. And when things look tough, he is the guy who we turn to, who will say, maybe we can try this. Or if I say we can't spend that much money on that, he says, okay, well, I actually found it for $5,000 instead of $22,000.
Awesome.
And that's just huge. When we did the show, the Blue Devils rehearsal, of course, it was one of those 100-degree days in Kansas, so it was pretty unmerciful at that point in time. But Russ was there. He had brought with him several of his friends from Missouri who helped. I had no idea who these people were. They were in their early 30s, late 20s, how Russ knows all of these people, right? That are not geriatric like Dale and I, is just amazing. And he's gotten these two friends of his to be very involved with us and to help make it go. So
Awesome.
I can't say enough about Russ's participation with us and what he's meant to us and continues to mean to us. I mean, let's face it, Tim, he set us up with you. So that's his connectivity, right?
Yes, he is a very connected guy.
And thank you, Jay, for all that stuff. I don't know if that's all true, but thank you.
Oh, Russ, we appreciate you, buddy. It's been a big deal for us for you to be with us.
Okay, so I'm coming right back to you, Russ.
Oh, it's okay.
When they first called, when you first heard about it, well, obviously he just said you sort of sniffed it out. What did you think? What was your first reaction?
Well, my first reaction is all right, kind of jumping for joy. My old core's coming back. That you hate seeing anybody die that was great. And we've seen too many cores do that. And we're one of them. So I was more than happy to give it a shot, whatever I could do to help. I think anybody would think that. So I think my biggest strong suit, and I think Jake kind of hit on it, is connections, because, working with a lot of the groups that I have and with, through DCI, I work with Dale, and I've gotten to know a lot of the core directors. He mentioned Pat Seiling. He's a friend of mine as well. In fact, I'm going to go see him next week. And, it's just like those friendships last forever. And my involvement with, just since I don't know how, I haven't even been with it for a year yet, like these guys have been for longer. I've gotten to know some of the old alumni that I forgot about, and even some that I didn't even know. When I was marching, they were in the same corps that I was. I don't know how it was for a Phantom Regiment, but back in the day, it's like if you're a drummer, you kind of hung with the drummers. If you're a horn player, you kind of hung with the horn players, and same with the guard. And, once in a while you'd have that little interaction, but on a regular basis, you're pretty much with your section. And so I've gotten to know some horn players. This one in particular, it's like, it's just great, to form those relationships, even after all these years. It's just like walking into a convenience store and you see somebody with a drum corps shirt on, specifically a Skyrider shirt maybe, or something, and you can just strike up a conversation out of nowhere. And I think we all have experienced that. And, to be involved with this project has just been wonderful. I'm so looking forward to see where it's headed. And I know it's headed for good things and great times. And so I'm looking forward to that.
I love it. Well, you guys have sort of all alluded to it. So many drum corps disappear. We all miss them. And so the idea that we can resurrect them, and they can once again be a great place for students to have these great experiences that we all had and loved. I love that very much. Jay, it sounds to me like you guys are doing this in a really smart way. You're starting local, you're starting with clinics, you're doing good in the community, you're building that sort of camaraderie and community around where you are, starting maybe with sound sport, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you guys have a timeline that you're hoping for, or you've been surprised it's going fast? Like, do you have an idea where you are? Well, wait, I'm asking 5 questions at once. Let me stop and say, when you said you might do some sort of performance this summer, tell me what does that look like? Is it like a sound sport kind of thing? Is it like whoever you can get from the clinics that wants to put something together? Like, how's that going to work?
Yeah, how I see this really right now is we want the kids in the clinics to thrive. They know that their attendance at clinics is going to essentially qualify them to be able to do the music and do the performance with us. I can imagine that the performance will be essentially in Skyrider t-shirts and shorts, something depending on the Kansas heat on that day, which was extreme last year. And this is again what I envision is probably a concert arc that does maybe a couple of drill moves, but not much.
Sure.
But revisits some aspects of what it means to be a Skyrider. We'll do a fanfare of, for example, Home on the Range. The Corps back in '79, I think it was '79, played Chuckman Jones' Ichano. We've always done some great Spanish tunes over time. And then a version of Over the Rainbow. We cannot not do Over the Rainbow.
Of course.
So, enough to give the kids a taste of the kind of performance that we experience, and to let it feed into, a greater event or happening. So, Dale's right. Our goal would be, hopefully in the fall to start a drumline and a winter guard. We would continue on through the year doing wind brass camps in order to, really see 2025 have a really strong sound sport group, right, come out.
Yeah.
Just down below the border with us is Zephyrus in Tulsa, which is a sound sport group. So 3 hours away. So it'd be really nice to kind of draw off of that energy that they're producing. This also buys us time to procure brass instruments, a match set actually enables us to follow up on more percussion equipment, those kind of things.
Sure.
And if I found out anything in my research, with Russ's help and Dale's help and Steve, this isn't an inexpensive activity anymore. And you got kids shelling out $5,000, $6,000 for a summer, and of course I've heard all the responses. It costs more to go to a 2-week golf camp than it does to do drum corps for the summer. I get that, I understand that, but at the very same time, how do we do this so that kids can afford to do this?
Sure.
And what do we need to do to be excellence and entertaining without totally breaking the bank? And that comes down to donors and sponsorships and
Sure.
those kind of things, rather than simply charging the kids a ton of money. So that's my job and the board's job. Our job is to make sure the kids have an excellent experience without having to, again, break the bank or do GoFundMe pages or whatever.
Yeah, so this is my point where I'm going to interrupt and say, okay, so someone's listening and they're like, I want to see the Skywriters out there again. Where do they go to make a donation? Same website?
Same website. Yes. There's a big, nice, large donate button on there.
All right, everybody. Yeah. Give $3, give $5, give $100. We all want to. So Skywriters with a Y, PAF. Is it .com or .org? What was it?
.org.
.org.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I have a couple of questions. So you just mentioned not breaking the bank, trying to make this work. So I have a question. Like, is that rainbow like in storage somewhere, like in a nuclear shelter where it's hidden away safely? Like, or is that going to have to be reproduced?
My gut is, and my take on this from a number of our people is it's gone. So it'll have to be reproduced.
Been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. It'll have to be reproduced, but that's not a problem.
Yeah, that's not
we have so many connections in Hutch. I think that they would simply, the 40 grandmothers from that time period will come together and do it for us. So that's got to be the part of this opening move for us, is rekindling that romance with the Skywriters.
Yeah, absolutely. So my other weird question that I'm just sitting here listening to you guys describe all of this, was there any problem being able to use the name? You know what I mean? Like somebody that was an organization that existed, you're resurrecting. Was there anything around that?
No, because one of the board members, Craig, I don't know if I get to patented, copyrighted it. Copyrighted the name. And I don't know, a few years ago, even before Jay had this idea or anybody do it, he went out and copyrighted it. And so we owned the name, and which was good because we, when we started digging it, we found somebody who was trying to do something that we didn't know anything about. And we had to say, no, you can't do that. You can't use the name because the name is taken. So, the governing organization now is called Skywriters Performing Arts Foundation because, as in what a lot of corps are doing, they're doing other things other than drum corps. And I think one of the things we'll probably eventually be looking at is what other things in the community can we do? Can we do boys and girls choir or a dance troupe in the community, whatever that might take us,
Right.
to not only make us more involved in the community, but also it's a pathway to do other things. So we'll see where that goes.
I love it. And I love that you guys are once again demonstrating that Drum Corps are great stewards to the communities, to the world. They're offering, like, so everybody that comes on and talks to me is sharing their expertise that they use in the Drum Corps world with everybody, wants everybody to do better. This is another example of that, where you guys are giving back to the community. The very smart, talented, educated people in the world of Drum Corps are giving back and helping everybody. And Band Directors, I hope you're listening to that, because they are here to help you, help your students do better. And we all want to support each other in this way. Okay, I'm excited about this, guys. Like, I cannot wait to see what happens this coming summer. Even if you just have them stand in an arc and play a couple tunes, I think that's going to be a huge accomplishment. And, you know, so that's exciting that there will be a Skywriters performance of some sort. It looks like that's your goal for this summer. So I love that very much. So, all right, anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention? Is there any part of this that we didn't talk about?
I think that, you know, there have been several other attempts to resurrect the Skywriters, as I'm sure there has been for 27th Lancers or Suncoast, or there's been attempts at these things. One of our alums in Texas, I think he's with Genesis. Is he with Genesis, Dale?
Yeah.
Yes.
He loved the Ryders, and he
marched.
He marched the Ryders, but he's also, his school experience has, you know, run on with the Wizard of Oz stuff and variations on that. So there has been this.
Oh, that's the connection with Genesis and Wizard of Oz. There it is, everybody. I didn't never make that connection. So you just, okay, keep going.
Chris marched in 93 or 4.
McGonagall, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah, they're doing great work there. That's amazing. There's another Hutch connection. There it is. Keep going.
I think the big thing for, you know, Hutch is we've always been kind of pathfinders. You know, the first major big prop, I probably would say, was us with the rainbow back in the day. Now the guards were always using cool stuff, but in terms of just props, you know, and of course, who can forget the doves in 1980 that came out from behind the rainbow, and then it turned into balloons because DCI wouldn't let live animals on the field anymore. Go figure. But we've always been kind of a trendsetter, and in today's restrictive economy, where diesel fuel is through the roof and you know, just the costs have skyrocketed, you know, we are really trying to learn from the corps around us, some of the marching band experiences, again, to make it affordable for the kids and to make it effective and entertaining for the audiences, all the while realizing that you know, what we're doing is an adventure and a privilege all at the same time, and making it work. A lot, like I said, we've had 2 different attempts at startups. They just didn't work, and part of it was because, you know, it was still born out of the same love for the Ryders, but it's with not a whole lot of understanding of the economics of how this all works.
Yeah.
And that's just important today. You got to know that and got to work with it.
All right, so I'm going to ask you each to say one final thing, whatever you want to leave the audience with. Anything you want to say about the Skywriters or about this project or anything. I want to say, hey, okay, if you're a director, an instructor, a student, and you're in this area and you can take advantage of this free, wonderful education from these smart people and be a part of this clinic and maybe be a part of this performance, I hope you will really consider it. Get your kids there. It's like free private lesson time to make your kids better. And if you're an instructor, go hang out and get to know these wonderful people and learn from what they're doing too. I mean, it's just great that you guys are giving this back to the community like this. Russ, I'm going to let you go first. Anything you want to say in closing you'd like to leave people with?
Well, whoever's watching this, I sure hope, you know, they take to mind that, think about, you know, because, you know, the Drum Corps people are going to be watching this. That's kind of what we do here, you know, and so think about, you know, when you were young and when you got in that first corps, wherever it may have been, it doesn't matter, and the experiences you had, it doesn't matter, honestly, where you placed. You know, I've got friends that are in the number one and then number 30. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, everybody goes through the same journey. I look at it, you know, the experience, you know, the journey is what it's all about for, I think, most folks. Maybe they don't realize it right away, but you know what? They think about all those friendships and all those things they learn. And then, you know, and like all of us have kind of talked about just a little bit today, you know, it's shaped who we are and what we're doing. And, you know, we're a bunch of old men now, you know, and we're trying to give that experience to the people, especially locally in Kansas, that really have had a drought of this kind of thing and have had to travel so far. So let's, you know, if you're watching this, don't feel bad about trying to donate, because we really want you to donate something to this, because it's important. You know, I think everybody in this day and age knows how the economy is. So please think about making a donation and think about, you know, your experiences and why we want to do this.
And a bunch of small donations add up and are mighty. Remember, everybody, just Google up Skywriters Performing Arts Foundation, or, you know, paf.org. Dale, what would you like to leave everybody with as we finish this conversation?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you taking the time and talking to us.
Sure.
It's the effort we put in so far has been massive, and I think we're headed in the right direction. Well, I know we're headed in the right direction, but we also have no illusions that, hey, you're just not going to plop the drum corps out on the field anytime soon. It's going to take a while, and you know, sometimes there could be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know, but we'll deal with that as it goes. The enthusiasm is there. We have to cultivate that enthusiasm and get everybody on board in Kansas. But we've made a lot of connections and done stuff that we've never even did back when we had the Corps in Kansas. You know, we're members of Kansas Bandmaster Association. We never did that back then. So we're trying to do it the right way from the beginning, and starting slow. And like I said, the donations, hey, think about, you know, $10, $20, $30 a month. An ongoing donation would greatly help us. It doesn't sound like much, but if you add it up over the time, that's huge to us. So we appreciate any help, and we look forward to seeing where this takes us.
You know, I feel like we live in this world right now where sometimes we feel powerless to really influence things, you know, like, oh my gosh, all these problems seem so big, and what can I do? All right, well, here's something you can do, everybody. One
real quick thing is, you can also go to the website, and we have a mailing list, and you put your email in there and your name, and we will keep you updated through newsletters and email blasts and stuff. So you know what we're doing, and you can keep tabs on us.
I love that you're doing that. That's fantastic. Okay, that's what I'm going to do when I sign off, is I'm going to go sign up for that newsletter. Jay, you're going to get the final word. What would you like to say as we go?
You know, this is about the kids and us giving them this opportunity for an experience that all 4 of us have shared with different groups maybe, but have shared. There's something about getting on a bus full of smelly people, so excited about the performance you just had, that will change a person. It just will. And that's what we're about, is giving these students this new lease on their musical life. And it's skyriderspaf.org. Dale and I were talking about this. I would challenge listeners, $24 in 24. And just know that, you know, all of our major alumni who are clinicians, they donate their fee back to us. So we're not paying them, you know, the kind of fees that they get normally to do stuff like this, because they believe in this project too. And my hope is that everyone else can believe in this project and see really a new path charted for Drum Corps and the Skywriters. So
yeah, amazing. Okay, so the second thing I'm going to do, first I'm going to sign up for the newsletter. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the vault and pull out I have my DCI DVDs, right? You know, like I have that collection, and I'm going to pull out that unbelievably special 1986 Wizard of Oz shows. I'm going to watch that again, and then I'm probably going to pull out 83, because I want to hear that Home on the Range arrangement one more time. That was just so groundbreaking. And God knows how long I'll be watching Skywriters videos tonight. But anyway, I think I'm very excited about this. As a drum corps fan, I love that you guys are doing it. It sounds like you're doing it very smart. There's a very you're setting the foundation. You have this growth plan in place. We can all get excited about it and support as we can. So Jay and Dale and Russ, thank you for talking to me. This was super fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for having us.
Marching Arts Education is the home of the Marching Roundtable podcast. We give you access to the top marching arts professionals through live webinars, podcasts, videos, interviews, and online coursework. With over 1,000 podcasts and hundreds of webinars and videos, there are hours of great professional development for you and your staff. Sign up for a membership to Marching Arts Education to get complete access to all webinars, videos, and podcasts, plus discounts on coursework. Many directors are using professional development funds through their school or boosters to make these resources available to their staff. Imagine what you could do with so many great new ideas from the top professionals in our activity. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and sign up for our newsletter to find out about the latest podcasts, webinars, and new content. Find all of this and sign up at marchingartseducation.com.